Some things seem small until they destroy you. It often starts with a single gesture, an ambiguous phrase, an unsolicited piece of advice, something seemingly harmless. But if you let it go, if you repeat it over and over, it becomes the norm. And that's when you're no longer yourself. You are what others have molded in silence while you thought you were deciding. Carl Jung, with his profound understanding of the human psyche, warned us of this silent enemy. Covert emotional manipulation. It doesn't arrive shouting. It doesn't arrive with chains. It arrives with tenderness, with phrases disguised as concern. I'm saying this for your own good. If you really loved me, you would do this. I don't understand why it affects you so much, and then you start to doubt. First, you doubt the situation, then your perception. In the end, you doubt yourself because the master manipulator doesn't need to impose themselves. They just need you to start questioning yourself. This isn't love, this isn't friendship, it's control disguised as affection. And the worst part is that it often comes from people you love, and that makes it more poisonous because you confuse loyalty with resignation. Jung explained it with chilling bluntness. People will do whatever it takes, however absurd it may seem, to avoid facing their own soul. And what better way to avoid it than by shaping yours? Emotional manipulation feeds on your silence, on your misunderstood upbringing, on your fear of losing the other. But what you're really losing is yourself. And when they've tamed you enough, when they know you won't respond, that your resistance is weak, then they cross another line. Not content with molding your mind, they seek to distort your image in front of others. And they do it in the most cowardly way, through laughter. Because when control is no longer enough, the next step comes. More hurtful, more public, more twisted. Humiliation disguised as humor. It's not a direct insult. It's a comment thrown into the air, a mockery with a smile, a phrase said as a joke but with a blade that cuts, and everyone laughs except you. But you also force yourself to laugh because you know that if you don't, you'll be pointed out as the bitter one, the one who can't fit in, the one who has no sense of humor. The trap is set. If you get upset, the problem is you. If you stay quiet, you allow it to continue. And meanwhile, every joke drives another splinter into your self-esteem. Jung knew that the unconscious doesn't distinguish between play and reality, that what is repeated gets embedded. That's why mockery, although it seems harmless, is a form of symbolic violence, a way of putting you below, of reducing you, of marking you as the weak one in the group. And the darkest part is that those who practice this covert mockery the most tend to be insecure. They use laughter as a weapon because they fear facing their own emptiness. They attack others because their shadow whispers that they are less. But you're not obliged to be the target of their demons. You didn't come into this world so others could unload on you what they don't know how to process. And if you allow that, if you normalize it without intending to, you open the door to something even more sinister. Because when someone feels they can laugh at you with no consequences, the next thing they do is something more subtle, more psychological, and much more corrosive. They start sowing doubt about your own perception. And here we enter the dark territory of gaslighting. That moment when someone denies what they've said. They accuse you of imagining things. They minimize your emotions. That never happened. You're exaggerating. You always make a drama. The worst part of gaslighting isn't what they say to you. It's what starts to happen inside of you. Because the mind, for survival, starts to adapt to the other's lie. Jung spoke of this as internal betrayal, the exact moment when you start to distrust yourself, and when you doubt what you feel, what you remember, what you intuit it. You're lost. You become a prisoner of someone else's mind, a mind that manipulates yours and does it without you realizing it. Gaslighting is a silent war. There are no screams, no blows, just a dense fog that settles inside of you until one day you no longer know if the problem is you or everything you're allowing. And here's the most macabre part. When they manage to install that confusion in you, when you no longer know what's real, they do something even more perverse. They start using your vulnerability against you. You tell them something that hurts you and they discard it. You explain how you feel and they ridicule it. You're always on about the same thing. It's not that big a deal. You're just complicating things. Every time someone invalidates your inner world, what they're really saying deep down is that your emotions are inconvenient, annoying, exaggerated, that you should feel less, be quieter, and then you learn to swallow everything, to not express, to not bother. You become a mutilated version of yourself, someone who lives so others won't feel uncomfortable. Does it sound familiar? This is the fourth unacceptable behavior, systematic emotional invalidation. Jung said that when we repress our emotions, they don't disappear, they rot. And they manifest later as anxiety, insomnia, uncontrolled anger, or nameless sadness. They don't disappear, they transform. And when they do, they pull you further away from who you once were. Imagine trying to explain your pain to someone, only for them to dismiss it with a wave of their hand, or worse, a scoff. It's like pouring your heart out into a bottomless pit. This constant invalidation erodes your emotional intelligence, making you doubt your own feelings and reactions. It teaches you that your inner world is not safe to share, that it's a burden to others. But it doesn't end with the emotional. Because once you've been manipulated, ridiculed, confused, and invalidated, the coldest blow comes. The most calculated, the most devastating. You tell them something that hurts you and they discard it. You explain how you feel and they ridicule it. You're always on about the same thing. It's not that big a deal. You're just complicating things. Every time someone invalidates your inner world, what they're really saying deep down is that your emotions are inconvenient, annoying, exaggerated, that you should feel less, be quieter, and then you learn to swallow everything, to not express, to not bother. You become a mutilated version of yourself, someone who lives so others won't feel uncomfortable. Does it sound familiar? This is the fourth unacceptable behavior, systematic emotional invalidation. Jung said that when we repress our emotions, they don't disappear, they rot. And they manifest later as anxiety, insomnia, uncontrolled anger, or nameless sadness. They don't disappear, they transform. And when they do, they pull you further away from who you once were. Imagine trying to explain your pain to someone, only for them to dismiss it with a wave of their hand, or worse, a scoff. It's like pouring your heart out into a bottomless pit. This constant invalidation erodes your emotional intelligence, making you doubt your own feelings and reactions. It teaches you that your inner world is not safe to share, that it's a burden to others. But it doesn't end with the emotional. Because once you've been manipulated, ridiculed, confused, and invalidated, the coldest blow comes. The most calculated, the most devastating. The most calculated, the most devastating blow, silent contempt. That gesture, that glance, that intentional absence, the lack of response, the surgical precision of ignoring you. They don't shout at you. They don't insult you. They simply erase you. But you're there, existing, screaming inside, knowing they're punishing you with their silence. That every minute that passes without a word from them is another wound in your need for connection. And this is where many break because contempt doesn't need explanations. It just drags you. It makes you feel invisible, irrelevant, as if your existence depends on a response that never comes. And if you've reached this point, if you've endured all of this without exploding, then you're no longer the same person. You no longer trust. You no longer speak. You no longer feel the same. Do you see where this is going? Jung warned. What you deny subjugates you. What you accept transforms you. And all of this that you've been tolerating is exactly what's subjugating you. But we're not done yet. Two more behaviors remain. The two most dangerous, the most insidious, the ones that, if you don't detect them in time, not only destroy you, but turn you into one of them. Do you want to continue? Because what comes next is even darker. So far, we've talked about what they do to you, how they mold, distort, and manipulate your perception. But what follows is not just an aggression against you. It's an infection that, if you don't detect it in time, will seep into your hands, your decisions, your way of looking at the world. The next behavior doesn't just harm you, it transforms you. The normalization of sacrifice as a virtue. This is the sixth one, and probably the most applauded, the most disguised, the most socially celebrated. You've been taught since childhood that giving in is loving, that putting others first is noble, that self-sacrifice is a sign of maturity, and so, little by little, you learn to disappear, to put yourself last in your own life. But there's a truth that hurts more than any rejection. Not everything you do for love is healthy. Not everything you tolerate in the name of peace is peaceful. Sometimes what you call sacrifice is submission. It's fear. It's the habit of not existing fully. Jung understood this perfectly. He spoke of the self as the real center of the psyche, and everything that takes you away from that center, everything that nullifies your true impulses, your desires, your boundaries, fragments you. It divides you. It turns you into a distorted reflection of what you once were. But the world applauds you for it, for being accommodating, for not causing trouble, for always being there for everyone. And no one asks you, and when was it your turn? When did you get to yourself? Perpetual sacrifice isn't love. It's self-abandonment. And the most terrible part is that when you make it your identity, you lose yourself. And what happens when someone loses themselves completely, when they no longer have a voice or a center or boundaries? This happens. The seventh behavior? Acceptance of contempt as the price for belonging. This is the end of the road, the deepest hole. It's when, after so much manipulation, humiliation, confusion, invalidation, silence, and self-abandonment, you decide that belonging at any cost is better than being alone with your truth, and you resign yourself. You accept crumbs. You tolerate systematic rejection. You justify the unjustifiable. And the most tragic part, you convince yourself that you are the problem, that you deserve this treatment, that you can't aspire to more. Jung described this state as a psychic death, an absolute disconnection from the self. The moment when the person no longer struggles, no longer asks, no longer feels, they just survive. They adapt to mistreatment because they believe there's nothing outside of that. That contempt is the cost of not being alone. That being ignored is better than not being seen at all. But it's not. Nothing. Listen carefully. Nothing is worth betraying yourself every day. Loneliness is hard, yes, but living surrounded by shadows that absorb you, that's hell. You're not here to beg for belonging. You're here to inhabit yourself, to take your place in the world without asking for permission, to rebuild yourself after allowing all of this. And if you've made it this far, you feel every word, because each of these behaviors has left a mark on you. Maybe not all of them, maybe not all the time, but you know what it's like to look in the mirror and not recognize yourself. You know what it's like to stay quiet so someone else doesn't get offended. You know what it's like to feel small in places where you should be your fullest. Now you know them. You can't say you didn't know. 7 behaviors, 7 poisons, 7 ways to destroy yourself with your own consent. Jung didn't write them as a guide. He left them as a warning, like a distant siren in the middle of the fog. So now that you know, what will you do? Because here comes the twist that no one expects. Most people, even after understanding everything, won't change anything. They'll go back to the same environment. They'll go back to the same bonds. They'll go back to the same pattern of self-betrayal. Why? Because it's comfortable. Because it hurts less to stay asleep than to face the void of being authentic. But if you've made it this far, if you've listened to every word, every silence, every shadow, you're not the majority. There's something in you that's starting to burn. You feel it, right? That little flame that says no more. You don't yet know how to do it. You don't have all the answers, but you know with animal certainty that something inside you wants to break free. And that's where the real work begins. It's not about pointing fingers at others. It's not about becoming a judge or a professional victim. It's about observing, about looking with coldness, about being absolutely honest with yourself. Where have you tolerated the intolerable? Who have you justified too much? What part of you have you sacrificed to keep being accepted? This is not a self-help video. It's a mirror without filters. And if you can't handle your reflection, it's not because it's broken. It's because you haven't dared to see who you truly are. And listen carefully. If you decide to change, if you decide to cut off these behaviors, get ready to lose things. People, bonds, routines. But don't be mistaken. You won't be losing anything that wasn't already taking away your life. Every loss will be a purge, and what remains after will be the real thing, yours, solid, what no one can destroy without your permission. Carl Jung didn't write to please. He wrote to awaken. And that's what you've done today. You've opened your eyes. Now don't close your eyelids. Don't pretend you didn't see what you saw. Don't betray yourself right now. Because there's something no one says, but you'll understand from this moment on. The true power is not that the world respects you. It's that you no longer need it. This isn't just about knowledge, it's about action. The flame that just lit inside you, that quiet knowing, is your deepest truth asserting itself. It's the call of your authentic self, the part of you that refuses to be diminished or defined by external validation. This is where the journey to reclaiming your power truly begins. It starts with small, deliberate acts of defiance against the patterns of tolerance you've normalized. It's choosing your peace over forced harmony. It's speaking your truth, even if your voice trembles. It's setting boundaries, even if it means discomfort for others. Remember, every loss you encounter in this process, the loss of certain relationships, the loss of old routines, the loss of a self-image that pleased others, is not a void, but a purification. What remains is genuine, solid, and authentically yours. No one can destroy it without your permission. Carl Jung didn't write to please. He wrote to awaken. And that's what you've done today. You've opened your eyes to the silent enemies, both external and internal, that have chipped away at your essence. This awakening is not a destination, but a continuous path. It requires vigilance, brutal honesty with yourself, and an unwavering commitment to your inner integrity. The discomfort you feel now is the discomfort of growth, the friction of shedding an old skin. Embrace it. It is the beginning of true freedom. If this video stirred even a single fiber within you, I want you to do something. Not for me, for you. Leave this phrase in the comments. What you tolerate buries you. Put it, write it, scream it in the form of words that you will no longer swallow more poison with a smile. That you will no longer negotiate your peace to buy cheap affection. This isn't just a comment. It's a declaration. It's the first concrete step in reclaiming your inner territory. It's a signal to yourself and to the universe that the silent suffering ends now. And if you want more content like this, without filters, without masks, where psychology becomes a weapon to free you, subscribe. Not for me, for you. Because every video will be one more bullet against what's silently killing you. Hit the button and turn on the bell. There's no hollow motivation here. Here there's truth, and that in a noisy world is worth gold. And now, turn off this video, but don't turn off what just lit up inside of you. Walk differently. Look differently. Tolerate less. Live more. Because remember, the one who wakes up never sleeps again. Until the next shadow, or until you decide to face it. The journey of self-discovery, fueled by Jungian insights, is a continuous unfolding. It's about constant vigilance, unwavering authenticity, and the courage to live a life aligned with your deepest self. This is your life. Reclaim it.